Hey guys, welcome to another episode of The Pursuit of Wellness. My name is Kabir Uppal and I'll be your host. I'm a fitness enthusiast myself, and by chatting with guests, I'm hoping to learn a lot, and hopefully you will too. You can check out our Facebook group, The Pursuit of Wellness, where we interact with guests and listeners and discuss their journeys. You can also follow us on Instagram and Twitter at TPOWPodcast. This is a Muncher Media production. You can find out more on munchermedia.com. In this week's episode, we're chatting with Prateek Sood. I've known Prateek for many years and have reached out to him for advice and his perspective on many things as they pertain to the business of fitness. Prateek is the CEO of Grand Slam Fitness, a company with a wide range of equipment for commercial and home gyms. He's also the co-founder of Follow Your Sport, a platform that brings you the latest news and analysis of your favorite sports teams. Let's jump into the episode, guys. Hey Prateek, how are you doing, man?
Very well. Thank you for having me here.
Thank you for being here. So we've already given our audience a little bit of a introduction about you, but why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
So essentially, I come from a family which started one of the first business into the fitness space over the years, and we have been retailing outside of Delhi and from outside of Delhi for about 25 years now. We are also selling fitness equipment to gyms and to government offices, to corporates, to health clubs, to large chains. Essentially, we started as a retail company, but now our focus has moved to setting up gyms and being a turnkey provider.
Awesome. And where did it all begin for you?
Honestly, I think I was born into it. Grand Slam started 1992. I was 4 years old then, and I think I never went back home from school. I've always been at work, and apart from education abroad, I've always been at work. And I think I came back 2012, and it's been full-time since then.
Wow. And how has the business changed?
When I came back, actually just before I left, we had over 100 stores across the country selling fitness equipment. We were partnered with the likes of Aditya Birla and Reliance and Big Bazaar with shop and shops across all of the stores. So about 175 stores at one point selling fitness equipment, and it just dropped all of it. We started realizing that all of those stores most of them were not making money. And we completely changed. Since 2012, we have been focusing on cutting down on retail and cutting down on stores. And we essentially shut down our franchisee completely. And we realized there were loyalty issues, profit issues. And now we're just sticking to our own stores or setting up gyms with walk-in customers.
So how has that kind of been different in terms of actually setting up the actual place where people work out and doing the turnkey stuff? How is that different from what you have been doing, and how's that been in terms of getting into it?
So essentially, I think over the years people have become more comfortable in working out around other people, and they're open to the idea of seeing other people do the same kind of workouts and achieving similar results. And I think that has to do a lot with how people have become confident with their own bodies. And they're okay to go to a gym or to workout spaces or to parks to work out or to walk or to exercise. And I think that's been the changing trend. And also that I think fitness equipment primarily still is a luxury. And that used to be the purchase mindset in bigger cities. And that has not really percolated to tier 2 or tier 3 cities. It has, but not as much as it did in cities like Delhi or Bombay or Calcutta or Bangalore. So essentially, all the stores that I have in these cities they barely make it there in terms of profit or however. But in smaller cities, we still see fair amount of sales. And now with Amazon and Flipkart stepping in, it just doesn't make sense to have so many retail stores. Fitness has always been lesser customers. You don't get 10, 12 people walk in. It's maximum of 3-4 people a day at the best of stores at the best of times. So it just makes more sense to not have those stores. And also, I think in terms of people working out, I've realized that people like going to gyms as more of a motivation factor. They get very lazy when they're home. Also, as an investment, it's a lot of money. Putting one equipment, taking a treadmill or a multi-gym, it's a lot of money. And versus a gym membership, you tend to get away with a few thousands here and there.
Yeah, actually, I wanted to touch upon that bit also. I'm glad you mentioned the point about affordability and, it being a luxury. What is the approximate budget one needs to have in their mind in terms of even if they want to set up a home gym?
A home gym is a very vast category. If you start with the basic like a treadmill, because most Indians are trying to lose weight, a treadmill anywhere between 50 to 60, a good treadmill. A cost-effective treadmill, which may not last you for very long, 30 or 1,000. But if you want to add to that, the moment you get past a treadmill, you try and add a multi-gym or a cross trainer, you're looking at least another 30, 40,000 rupees. So at that time, we start wondering, like, one, do I have the space for it? Second, is this money really worth it? Do I just go to a gym instead?
Yeah.
Fine, I may not use my gym membership completely, but then I don't block my money.
Yeah, it's almost, by that calculation, it's almost 2 years worth of gym membership.
Pretty much. And most people have the lean periods with gyms, and they go on and off it. And I think that's a trend with fitness in general in India. You go on and off your strive for fitness.
Yeah.
And with machines at home, they tend to take space as well. So it just kind of hurts you.
Yeah, so there's money locked away and there's actual space also that you need to think about at home. I'm glad that, we're talking a little bit about how the consumer has changed and they're more towards actually, going to the gym. There's that community aspect, there's that motivation aspect. What are your thoughts on some of these bigger brands that are now kind of consolidating in terms of like the Fitness First, the Cult Fit, and also some of the younger, smaller ones like Studio 60, Box Fit? How has that impacted the industry in terms of, for an owner like you that is selling equipment to them, how's that changed the market?
I think the trend of the industry is going to go towards larger gyms. The gyms that we have in India are very small, especially the neighborhood gyms that we're all used to seeing around us. Anything which is less than 6,000-7,000 square feet today is probably going to go under as a business in a few years from now. I think most gyms today are now trying to move into larger spaces, or at least have a few gyms of their own brand name. That way there is more recognition, more people want to be a part of it. Gyms like Anytime or Plus Fitness, they have branches all over the world. One of the advantages that they give you is that you buy one membership and you work out anywhere in the world. That's the thing a small gym cannot offer.
Yeah.
What if you're on a vacation, or what if you're traveling? What if you want to work out? You pay for another membership. What if your hotel doesn't have a gym? And also that most of these smaller gyms are using equipment which are slightly obsolete, so to say. If obsolete is the wrong word, then biomechanically incorrect. A lot of these larger gyms like Fitness First, as you mentioned, or Anytime or Plus Fitness, they all have very, very high quality, good standard equipment. These equipment, not only do they give you better workouts, but then they're better for your body. When you talk of a gym chain like Cult, that's a completely different category, right? What they're trying to do is they're trying to break the way people are exercising.
Absolutely.
Right? CrossFit came along. I think it died its own death. It exists, but not in the same way that people were crazy about it a few years ago. People are now suddenly getting into boxing. We have a few studios around town which offer you boxing, kickboxing. There was a league, Super Boxing League, that tried to open its few gyms.
Super Fight League.
Yes, correct. They stopped their plan. They stopped the expansion plan. They realized it was a dying trend. But Cult is growing. Cult is, they're expanding. There are, I think, 75 gyms right now, and they're trying to hit about 108 by the end of the year and about 350 by the end of next year.
Wow.
So Cult does what nobody else does. It gives you the raw feeling. You are in your own element. You have to be natural. There are no machines. It's just a bunch of dumbbells and balls and stuff thrown around. It just gives you that alpha feeling. And I think that resonates with a lot of people.
Much more than, say, other things that are going on. And I wanted to get your thoughts on, CrossFit is very popular in other countries, at least in the States. A lot of people I know that are still there, they're very into CrossFit, and it's almost like a cult mentality there. Like they're if you're not into CrossFit, you're not cool, or you're not really doing it right. Why do you think that's failed in India?
Which was the last CrossFit studio that I saw in India or Delhi?
I know there's one in SDA, one in Gurgaon.
So
I still know a few people that work out.
Correct. So all of those studios are very small.
Yeah.
Until and unless you don't have a large workout area, you don't get the feel of being out in the open. CrossFit is about being physical. It's about doing a lot of different things.
Yeah.
It's about being rough and tough, right? That area can do well with the gym, like a closed gym. You have machines, set workouts, but with CrossFit, there's nothing set.
Yeah.
Right? It's the randomness of the program which makes it so addictive.
Yeah.
And we just don't have those kind of spaces.
So getting into, the part about people opening up, if somebody is interested in potentially opening up a space for themselves, you've made a great point about the size of the space being essential for it to succeed. What are some things that, some of our listeners who might potentially want to get into the business of owning a gym or owning a studio where they actually perform workouts and have memberships? What are some things that are essential to keep in mind?
The first thing that you got to figure out is, who are you opening the gym for? What is your target area, target people? Do you want regular people to come work out, get healthy, or do you want people to come practice for competitions, build bodies for competition. That's a very different gym altogether. So if you're trying to target an average person, who's just trying to get fit, even if you have a 3,000, 3,500 square feet gym, you'll sustain. You'll sustain because most of the people, when they pay for gyms, they don't turn up. Right.
Yeah.
And that's where you really make money.
Yeah.
You don't make money selling memberships. You make money when people don't turn up. And the idea is that you put equipment in a way that you're able to sustain whoever you offer memberships to. Also, in terms of equipment, I think you should make sure that whatever you're buying lasts you for 10 years. Right? You shouldn't be switching out equipment every now and then. That's just a bad business to be in. And try and open a gym in a place which is airy. Don't go for basements. Don't go for congested marketplaces where there's no parking. Go for an area which doesn't have as many gyms. While it may seem very lucrative to be in a space which has 10 gyms already, because there's a lot of potential in that area, but it'll probably turn out to be worse for you as compared to an area which has no gyms. Also, try and be associated with a chain if possible. If you're okay to spend that kind of money, do it because it'll give you recognition. It'll give you the brand value that people need to know you. When you start a fresh gym, one of the biggest factors that there is how good are your trainers and how much attention are those trainers paying to your prospective clients. Most people fail because the trainers start doing personal training on the side, not enough attention, customer lost. If you're able to be there yourself, do it then. If you think a manager is going to run the gym for you, probably not unless you're a big name.
So, a good idea is to probably go with some of these bigger brands, get a franchise, have that support system in place.
Yes, because it makes people question you lesser. That's the psychology behind brands.
Yeah.
If you have your own gym, what they say is they see you as an owner, they see you as accessible, they come to you more often with complaints. When you are behind a brand, behind the curtain of a brand, everything slides through.
Yeah.
Right? You're able to get away with a lot behind the banner of a big brand.
So switching the discussion to a little bit about the projects that you've worked on. I know from our discussions before that you were working on a project with the Delhi government for outdoor gyms. Can you tell us a little bit about how that project went and what's the impact been?
Most state governments now or city governments are trying to open gyms in their parks. And it's not just Delhi. It's happening for most cities. Just happening rapidly so in Delhi because it being Delhi.
Yeah.
And open gyms, I think, have changed the way people are working out or looking at fitness. Every morning walker who used to spend 30 minutes walking around is now spending lesser time walking slowly around the park and spending more time on machines. Now, what is that doing for them? It's making them active. It's making them feel much better about their bodies. And also, it's giving women who don't usually end up in a gym because of XYZ reasons a chance to work out. A common trend is that an open gym starts being used about 5 a.m. in the morning. 5 to 8 is your focused exercisers. There is a gap in between, and about 10:30, 11, you'll see all the housewives come out who usually have, a lot of wares to tend to in the morning. Afternoon time, kids will use it as a playground, which is fine. About 4 again, we'll see some housewives, and then 6 onwards, the regular people are back using the same machines. So essentially, it's a full day for these gyms. They're probably seeing more traffic than regular gyms. I'm not going to say that these gyms can give you the same kind of workout a gym can, a regular gym, but it does its job.
Yeah.
And I think it's a great initiative by the governments. Only the governments can actually do this on this scale. A lot of private players try to get into it, try to put it in their community housings or projects, and they realize it's just not economically viable for them.
Yeah.
But for the government as a social framework, it works out just fine. They're not very expensive, very low maintenance, effective, and they can take care of at least 30, 40 people at one time. So I personally have seen people queue up to exercise on these machines. As of now, I think there are about 1,000 odd parks in Delhi which have open gyms, and the number is growing. The kind of equipment that there are in open gyms are changing. We're getting better ones. We're getting focused equipment. World Bank actually just recently sponsored a project, not here, but in Telangana, to put open gyms across the state. So if World Bank is doing it, I'm sure there's something good about it.
Yeah, excellent.
So a lot of sports centers around the country weren't being actively used by kids or people. Now I've seen, especially in Delhi, people, government organizations like DDA, make a constant effort to get these places to be occupied. There are schemes coming out, there are tenders being floated for people to make an effort, a marketing effort, to get people inside these complexes. Not only is that great for the sporting environment in the country, that's also great for fitness in general, because the more you work out, the more you're playing, you're fitter anyway. Also, that I've realized that as a trend around the country, the sports centers are starting to buy better fitness equipment and better sports equipment for these players and athletes. Even for the recreational athlete, the weekend athlete, the facilities are improving. One of the initiatives of late has been trying to get people to play, the younger kids, as part of the Keto India run. And while the first year saw varied results, varied participation, just more from Delhi and lesser from everywhere else, second year is going to look very different. That's an initiative run by Sports Authority of India. The Sports Authority of India also has sports centers across the country, which they're revamping constantly. Another thing that I know that is coming up very well is rehab. People get hurt. There isn't enough available for people to recover, especially sports people. And while some of the centers that exist are private, the government is now making an effort to establish centers across the country, 12 in number actually, which are focused on just rehab. And let me tell you, some of the technologies they're using in that are very advanced. They're comparable to what people have access to in clubs like Liverpool or Manchester United or Real Madrid. It's of that standard. I still say that they're a little bit behind the Americas, what people see in, say, basketball clubs like Boston or LA, I think, but they're getting there. Eventually, it will be at that par, but I think it'll take a few years.
Yeah, that's a great point, actually. I wanted to build on that a little bit. You mentioned about facilities getting better and, the rehab bit also coming in. And also, our athletes are getting fitter. More and more of our athletes are focused on working out more. What are your thoughts, and, what is kind of happened in the sports space in terms of fitness? Like you rightly said, the facilities are getting better. Where is that going? Where's the improvement bit that you see now?
So over the years, as our athletes have started traveling more, participating in games across the world, they have started seeing things that they are liking, in a way that they know how other athletes are training. They come back and start asking for those things. And when you're asking for those things, at some point, the government is bound to give you some of it at least. Something like force plates. Force plates are essentially it's a huge plate. You exercise on it. It also helps you balance out. There is vibration. It just gives you a very, very robust workout. Now, that's something that most people don't even know about, but that's a very focused thing for athletes around the world. Or something like a Theragun. A Theragun is essentially, it helps you cool down your muscles. It's just vibration tech, but it's very focused. Now, when you're traveling and you see other athletes recovering thanks to these things, you want it because you want to perform. You start complaining, you start asking, you get it eventually. And that's what has happened in terms of the fitness space as well. Most of our cricketers, because that's the big bunch where the money goes, they exercise in gyms which are made for other countries as well, especially when they go on tours abroad. They come back asking for the same equipment. And because of that, the general trend, which used to be just purchase the lowest price equipment, that still remains, but they've started asking for better specs. Now, once that demand increases, you'll see fitter athletes across the country.
Awesome. Kind of staying on the point of technology, I wanted to get into talking a little bit about and getting your views about the integration of technology in fitness in general, right? You think about IoT, you think about wearables, you think about how intelligent the machines that we're using are getting. What are your views on where it's at currently and where do you think this is going to go in the next few years?
So when you talk about wearables in the fitness space, I think I would like to divide that into two segments. One, when you're doing just physical activity outside of a gym or outside of a confined workout space, which includes just running or walking or cycling or swimming. The wearables are doing a good work at that, Fitbit or any of the other brands. There are a few for swimming as well now. But when you're inside a gym space or you're doing a focused workout, those wearables are not delivering the correct results. They cannot also, because people don't know how to do it yet. So for example, you're squatting. How does your tracker track squatting? How many squats you did? What is the weight that you picked up on? And what kind of workout are you actually completing by the end of it? Or any of the other exercises, or especially when you're doing free weights. like say just arm curls. How does a wearable know what is it that you're doing? That's one of the questions that we've been trying to answer. How does a person go to a gym and get a complete report of his workout? Also, when he shifts a gym, how does he take that report with him?
Yeah.
International brands like Sports Art or Techno Gym, they have good technology tracking. They also, you can take your cart from one treadmill to another treadmill, or to another CrossFit, or to another cycle. But that's it, though. You restrict yourself to cardio. What happens when you do strength?
Yeah.
Sony got into that space where they started tracking how many reps you're doing on a machine. But that's just for reps.
Yeah.
And when a brand like Sony gets it, you expect a whole lot more.
Yeah.
There is a Korean company, I don't remember the name though. He did it's a young guy. He basically put sensors on. He made micro sensors, put them on various parts of your body. You can track your entire body function. But again, that's a little bit complicated because you have to wear 14-15 trackers just to get a hang of what you're trying to do.
Yeah.
So essentially, I think there's that gap in between, which nobody has been able to solve yet. How do you continuously track a full workout versus just running or walking? It's great for daily tracking, but I think as a proposer of greater workouts, or an athlete, for example, they are very far from using IoT or any of the trackers.
Yeah, it's not in depth enough for them.
Not at all.
So there's massive potential in that space still. People are trying to do things.
There is a lot of potential. The other trouble is that working out is so dynamic. There are so many different body functions, so many different muscles. How do you track each of them?
And what are some of the technologies that you're most excited about, that interest you the most, that you see, adding the most value from a business perspective and for a user perspective as well?
Of late, we have started seeing workout stations which have become electronic. So to say that they control the range of motion from the press of a button. Controlling the range of motion lets you get a very focused workout. That technology is very expensive. It's not out for commercial use, so to say. A few brands are doing it, but they're not selling large numbers. Imagine using a leg extension or leg curl machine, and imagine the machine controlling how much you raise your leg or how much you curl your knee, and then coming back and rolling back, and that being controlled as well.
Yeah.
The speed and the range both being controlled. It's a big step up. It's also very, very robotic. It doesn't give you a very natural feeling, but it is better for the muscles because you know exactly how much to work out because it's preset.
Yeah.
And the person to preset is experienced, hopefully. He's a trainer who knows what he's doing. So you're effectively looking at a much better workout. But then it also has a potential to hurt somebody working out a lot, because if it over exceeds how much you can go, you'll probably hurt yourself in a very bad way.
Yeah. But I mean, that's a lot of the range of motion issue with free weights as well, right? When somebody inexperienced is working out with free weights, and I think, most legitimate trainers will tell people to start at machines, and therefore, there are less chances of them getting injured.
I think free weight and this debate between free weight and focused machines is it's okay if you're trying to be a part of a competition. Like if you're trying to build a body for something specific, I understand the need for free weights. But if you're just a weekend athlete, or if you're just trying to get fit, I think machines do the job better. You don't hurt yourself. You know how much you're working out. You count your reps properly. You do a circuit or focused exercises, and you go home happier. With free weights, you're always hunting for attention. Is my trainer telling me what to do? Is he telling me the right thing? Is my posture correct? Am I doing enough weights? How much weight is the next guy doing? Am I squatting too little, too much?
Yeah.
With machines, you know what you're doing. It's fixed.
And is the impact, would you say, comparable in terms of, for a weekend athlete that actually does want to, maybe not compete, but get ripped? Is the impact almost the same?
It is, because machines are now focused to do work on muscles, right? Machines are not just like structures anymore. They're just not metal structures. They're biomechanically designed after days and hours and months of testing.
Yeah.
And none of the bigger brands would put out a machine and hurt their brand value if it doesn't do well.
Yeah. I'm glad you brought that up because, before we had started this, you had mentioned that there's a need for the customer to be aware and informed about, equipment, specifically stuff that is biomechanically engineered versus things that may not have, had that R&D. So tell us a little bit about what our listeners may need to keep in mind while buying equipment, and why they might want to pick one over the other.
I'll tackle that question in two ways. One, when you're buying equipment for your home, and one, when you're using a gym. Trying to find a gym, actually. When you're trying to buy a home use equipment, ask yourself, what is my target? If I'm just trying to lose weight, and if cardio is what I need, ask yourself, where do you think the injury lies? Right? If it's your knees, if you're tentative about your knees, buy a treadmill which has cushioning. Buy a brand which is available around the world. Don't buy a brand which is just here in your city. Right? Same applies to when you're trying to find a gym. Go to a gym which has equipment which is available around the world. That's the value the equipment adds to your gym, and that if they're charging you for it, it's probably worth it. Yeah. If you're trying to wiggle out of paying too much money for your gym, you're probably going to hurt yourself with bad equipment. And the impact of these equipment is also subsidized in a way, right? The better the equipment, the more the impact, the lesser you have to work out for similar gains. Right, that's very important. You have limited time. You're not going to spend 4 or 5 hours in a gym each day. You have about an hour or hour and a half at the most, and you have to maximize that time. To do that, you need better equipment, focused equipment. Like, say, for example, on a cross trainer. A cross trainer is the last scientifically developed cardio workout. It's a combination of 3 exercises. You must understand what a cross trainer does for you. If it doesn't give you the range of motion that you need to achieve a full body workout, it's useless. You're spending 20-30 minutes killing yourself on a cardio machine which probably isn't delivering you what you need. Or, for example, say a recumbent cycle. A recumbent cycle is focused on people who have, say, back pains or knee problems. No, you can't do any other workout. Now, if you're trying to do a workout, trying to save your knees, and the recumbent cycle is not of a good brand, it isn't designed to actually save your knees. It's just designed to have a relaxed seat. You're probably going to get hurt even more. By the end of it, you'll complain of painful knees, and then you'll say, oh, recumbent is a bad workout. It probably isn't. It's just that the machine wasn't good enough in the first place. And hence it becomes very important for people to start understanding that equipment are an investment in themselves. They're for your own body. You have to understand that fitness shouldn't be you cannot make a scapegoat out of the whole process. Right? Yeah. You have to spend your time and money on it because it's for yourself.
Absolutely. And knowing what you're doing the research, as you've rightly put. I actually wanted to jump in a little bit on the training side. Before, we had talked about, ACE, we had talked about other institutes that you're working with also. What is currently the quality of training institutes in India? What are the kind of certifications that trainers should have? So if, a listener of ours wants to potentially become a professional in this space, a trainer of any sorts, or our listeners need to make sure that, the trainer that they're hiring for themselves is qualified, what are some things that they should look for?
I think and I'm going to get a lot of flack for saying this, but I think Reebok ruined the industry. They put out so many Reebok certified trainers, and that brand did well, but I think those were the worst of the kind. Those were the guys who did not know what they were doing. There are brands like K11 who still do a good job getting qualified people out there, but I think it's very important that you train with somebody who has read more than just practiced. Most of the trainers nowadays in gyms are guys who got bulky, who stopped working out eventually, but they have their own mindset because they were taught by some guru. Yeah. The idea is to beat that system, right? You have to be read. You have to know what you're doing. There are courses even run by the government of India which help you get trained in that space.
Yeah, there has to be some standardized curriculum.
Correct. And it's also part of Skill India at this point. Yeah. Right? And that curriculum is important for them to know what muscles they're working on, or to know what exercise to not make you do in case you have an injury, or in case you have, say, a fractured bone from an earlier incident. That's the kind of trouble that you get into if you don't have a certified trainer. There are schools like ACSM or ACE. Now, all of these are far. They're all America-based mostly. They do online courses. Those courses are tough, but a lot of guys in India just get somebody else to do the exams for them. It's just, and you get the certificate in your name. By the end of it, you're good to go. You get your job. But then usually a qualified trainer will talk about the muscles. A qualified trainer will tell you why what you're doing is wrong, not just don't do this. This is wrong. This range of motion should be short or long. Ask him for a reason. If they're able to tell you the reason, they'll do a good job with you in general.
That's some great information for people to, keep in mind when they're actually getting the trainers. And where do you see this kind of industry in India? I know there's a lot of interest from people that I have spoken to of getting in the business of actually the education bit, because there are so many different paths people can take to become professionals in this space. What are some things that are happening in the space that are legitimate, that are exciting, that people should look out for?
There are a few institutes around the country who are helping people become better trainers, and removing the stigma that fitness trainers or gym trainers is it's a job that you get into because you couldn't do anything else. People like K11, Kazad Kapadia, based out of Bombay. While I don't know him personally, I think he does a great job. He's an educated guy himself, and most people coming out of that academy are doing well themselves. Resistance Training Systems has been doing courses in India. I think there is another academy in Delhi. I think it's Classic. They are also putting out courses. The guy is a doctor himself, so he knows what he's doing. The government-run courses are also sponsored through these academies themselves. The government doesn't have education institutes for themselves.
Yeah.
But at the same time, a lot of big universities have started offering physical education courses which are inclined towards being fitness trainers. And those courses actually teach you more about biomechanics than you would learn in an actual gym. And these courses are not only talking about muscles, but how to what happens in case of injuries. And that's, I think, a very important element which people don't learn in random courses. Those organized courses tell them about how to deal with injuries, or how to deal with a muscle which is stuck, or a muscle which isn't growing, or what to do in those cases. It's not just always lifting more weight or pumping more weight into your system. It's about knowing how to grow that muscle, and that education helps.
Great. Going back to a little bit about, your business and your areas of interest, what are some of the highest selling and most popular pieces of equipment that you guys sell?
For home sales, 70% people still want to buy treadmill as their first fitness equipment at home. Most people don't get to a second. If they do, it's a multi-gym or a cycle, depending on how many people or who they have in their family.
Yeah.
In case it's for, a guy decides to buy a machine for his dad or for his mom, and they're ailing from certain issues, then it comes back to a recumbent cycle. When you talk about gyms or studios, there is an increasing demand for free weight equipment like wall balls or yoga mats or stuff like that, wherein people are trying to do that free workout. But when it comes to a full-fledged gym, I think it's that's a full-fledged gym for a reason. It has a little bit of everything. So people will still have their 4-5 treadmills, full set of weight training equipment, dumbbells and stuff. I think it's difficult to differentiate in that sector.
Yeah.
But for home, it's a treadmill that's the winner. And for studios, it's been stuff like Pilates tables or TRX, for example. People are trying to get into that space very heavily because, one, there isn't enough investment in it. Right? It's cheaper than buying actual equipment.
Mm-hmm.
And plus, it's also a trend. Right? People are trying to move away from regular gyms because they feel that they can't get committed to them enough. But the newer trends, or the fads as I like to call them, they get people hooked on fairly easily.
Yeah.
One of the biggest trends that we see is dance studios like Zumba.
Yeah.
I went to college with the guy who started Zumba, and he made a lot of money by just branding. And a lot of the trainers in India with Zumba are not even certified.
Yeah.
But Zumba isn't really a science. It's just dance.
Yeah.
And it catches on because there isn't any investment.
And just building up, on that a little bit more. I know you've grown up with the business, you've lived the business, and you've been at it for a while. What is your favorite part of the business? What is it that excites you most of being in this ecosystem? And, where do you see yourself being, adding the maximum amount of value over the next few years?
I think one of the most satisfying feelings is when a guy comes to ask you for service for an equipment he bought 10 years ago. One, he used it. That's why he wants to use it again. Second, you sold a good piece of equipment. But that's all. It has its own downside. You're not going to sell another one because he's still using the old one. And I think for the future, we need to find a way to put together all the gyms, all the workouts on the same plane. We need to find a way to put them all together for people to take their progress from one place to the other seamlessly so, and not to struggle with it. We also need to look at that's a thing that I have been working on personally, that how do people get enough correct information and not biased information about workouts or fitness trends or what is good for their own bodies. especially in the nutrition space for fitness, right? There are so many brands selling nutrition and whey or amino acids and whatnot, and people don't know if they're good or bad. Most of them just get sidelined because they think they're steroids.
Yeah.
It's really not it. But a lot of the nutrition that is also sold in India is possibly just, Glucon D.
Yeah.
And that's one space that I am trying to work and trying to educate people about their purchases, trying to tell them what is right for them, and trying to make sure that people don't get cheated when they're trying to spend on fitness.
Awesome. Well, I'm excited to see your contribution in that space. And this has been great, man. Thank you so much for coming on the show and making time for us. We'll put all of this information in our show notes also for our listeners. But what are some of the places people can come see you, see your store, and if they need to get in touch with you, possibly about business or, being involved in some of the things that you're doing, how can they get in touch with you?
Well, my stores are in metro cities. Store names, they're all by the name of Grand Slam. You can look it up. If you're trying to contact me, it's simple. I'll push out my email ID, Prateek at grandslamfitness.co.in. That's Prateek. You can email me if you have any queries. If you want to know more about the business or the training space or nutrition, for example, I might not be able to tell you everything about everything, but I can at least tell you what's wrong. I can at least tell you where not to go, if not where to go. That should be helpful for some people at least.
Well, thank you so much, man. Alright guys, that was this week's episode of The Pursuit of Wellness. You can find us on iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. We're on Facebook as The Pursuit of Wellness and Instagram and Twitter as TPow Podcast. And you can also check out our website, munchermedia.com. This has been a Muncher Media production. Thanks for listening.